The battlefield was quiet now. Too quiet. Smoke curled into the gray sky, black pillars rising from broken machines and shattered buildings. The city had once been alive with lights, voices, and movement, but now it was only ruins. Concrete lay, cracked. Metal burned slowly. The ground was full of scars from bombs and fire. Sergeant Daniel walked carefully through the silence. His boots crunched over ash and broken glass. His rifle was heavy in his hands, but heavier still was the weight inside his chest. His squad had gone ahead earlier, leaving him to check the rear. Alone now, he felt every sound too sharply, every shadow too near. He had been fighting in this war for years, humans against aliens. Both sides had lost too much. But the orders were always the same: push forward, destroy, leave nothing behind. Daniel had followed those orders because that was what soldiers did. They did not question. They survived. Yet, as he moved past a collapsed wall, he felt it, something different. A sound that did not belong to fire, smoke, or metal. He froze. His breath caught. His finger tightened on the trigger. There it was again. A soft sound. Not the harsh cry of a soldier. Not the growl of a dying machine. No, it was something small, fragile, like a whisper. He stepped closer to the rubble, his heart beating faster. His mind screamed trap. The aliens were clever. They used tricks. He had seen wounded enemies lure humans into ambushes before. This could be the same. Daniel raised his rifle, eyes narrowing as he scanned the broken stones. And then he heard it. Clear this time, a voice, weak, tired, but it was not a soldier's voice, it was a child's. Please, human, just one bite. For my sister. The word slid into him like a knife. He blinked, sure he had imagined it. His grip tightened on his weapon. His training screamed, enemy, enemy, enemy. But no. The sound came again, softer, almost broken. Daniel slowly stepped around the rubble, his weapon still raised. His eyes adjusted to the dark space beneath the shattered wall, and then he saw them. Two small figures, the older one maybe 10 years old with strange pale skin that glowed faintly in the dim light. Her eyes were wide, full of fear but also of something stronger. Courage. She was holding another figure, in her thin arms, a smaller child, weak, barely moving, her face sunken with hunger. Daniel's breath caught. His mind spun. Aliens. Children, not soldiers, not fighters, just children. The older one stared at him, her lips trembling as she spoke again. Please, just one bite. For my sister. For a moment, time stopped. The world, the war, the smoke. It all fell away. There was only the sound of her voice and the image before him. Daniel's heart thudded. Every rule he had learned told him to turn away. Aliens were the enemy. Mercy was weakness. If his commanders saw this, he would be punished, maybe executed. But in her eyes, he did not see an enemy. He saw desperation. He saw pain. He saw something human. He stood frozen, torn between duty and instinct, between war and something deeper. His finger hovered over the trigger. The child did not move. She only waited, her arms wrapped around her sister, her voice breaking with hope and fear. The silence of the battlefield pressed down on him. Smoke drifted slowly overhead. The ruins whispered of death and endings. And yet, in that silence, Daniel felt something stir inside him. Something he thought the war had burned away long ago. Compassion. The choice stood before him like a knife's edge. One step could mean betrayal. The other could mean salvation. And still, that small voice echoed in his mind. Please, human. Just one bite. For my sister. Daniel did not lower his weapon. His hands were steady, but inside his chest felt like a storm. His eyes stayed locked on the alien child. For years, he had been trained to see only one truth. Aliens were the enemy. They were dangerous, ruthless, and they would kill without mercy. He had seen human bodies burned, villages destroyed, cities wiped from maps. His commanders told him again and again, "They are not like us. They will never be like us." And yet, here they were, two children, small, helpless, afraid. The older one's lips trembled, but her gaze did not break. She held her sister tighter, as if she expected the soldier to fire at any moment. There was no weapon in her hands, no trap hidden in her arms, only bones and hunger. For a long moment, silence ruled between them. Smoke drifted from the ruins. A broken piece of metal groaned as it cooled. Somewhere far away, gunfire cracked in the distance, sharp and fading. But here, in this corner of the battlefield, the war paused. Daniel's finger curled slowly away from the trigger. His rifle lowered by an inch, just an inch, but that inch felt like a mountain moved. The older child's eyes widened, not with victory, but with surprise, perhaps even hope. He swallowed. His throat was dry. His voice came out rough, almost like he had forgotten how to speak. Why ask me?" he whispered. "I'm your enemy." The child did not answer at once. She looked down at her sister, whose eyes were closed now, her breathing faint. Then she looked back at him. "Because you are human," she said softly. The words hit him harder than any bullet. "Because you are human." Daniel stepped closer, slowly, carefully. He studied their faces. Their skin was pale and faintly glowing, marked with lines like silver veins. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, bright even in the shadow. They were alien, yes, but there was something familiar in their expression. Fear, hope, love. The older one repeated her plea, her voice weaker now. "Just one bite, please." Daniel looked down at the pouch on his belt. His rations. Not much. Not enough, even for himself, really. He had been saving the last bar for the march back to camp. Without it, he might go hungry. But the child's voice made his chest ache. He pulled the pouch open slowly, his hand shaking. His mind screamed, "Traitor." If anyone saw him, he would be court-martialed, maybe shot. Feeding the enemy was the same as helping them live. Helping them live meant disobeying orders. And still, he reached inside. He pulled out a piece of bread, hard and dry, but still food. He hesitated. His hand froze halfway. His eyes darted around the ruins, half expecting another soldier to appear. But no one came. Only the children's eyes watched him. Finally, he knelt. Slowly, carefully, he placed the bread on a broken stone between them. He did not push it closer. He did not reach for them. He simply set it there, a choice waiting. The older child's breath caught. Her hands shook as she reached forward, pulling the bread quickly into her lap. She broke it in half with care, giving the larger piece to her sister. The smaller one she kept for herself. Daniel watched as the little one chewed weakly, her eyes fluttering open. Just a little. She made a small sound, almost a sob, as if the taste of food was too much for her empty body to believe. The older one chewed slowly, staring at Daniel the whole time. Her eyes were wet, but she did not let the tears fall. She did not speak, but the look in her eyes said enough. Gratitude. Daniel exhaled a long, shaky breath. He lowered his rifle completely now, letting it rest against the ground. His heart still raced, but something inside him eased. He had just crossed a line, not with bullets, not with blood, but with bread. The enemy's face was no longer that of a monster. It was the face of a child, and Daniel knew. His war had just changed forever. The bread was gone quickly, too quickly. Daniel had expected the children to eat fast like starving animals, but they did not. The older child broke every piece carefully, feeding her sister first. Only when the small one had swallowed did she dare take a bite herself. Daniel watched in silence. He felt like an intruder, not on alien soil, but in something far more private. A bond, a promise between two sisters. Their pale hands trembled as they held the food, but they never fought for it, never snatched. The older one always gave more to the smaller. When the last crumb disappeared, the little one let out a weak sigh and leaned against her sister's chest. Her eyes fluttered half shut, but for the first time, there was peace on her face. The older child stroked her sister's hair, her own lips pressed tight to hold back tears. Daniel's throat ached. He remembered his own younger brother, long gone, buried in the first weeks of the war. He remembered holding his hand as he died, promising he would protect him. A promise broken by the chaos of battle. He blinked hard and pushed the memory away. But the feeling would not leave. The older child finally looked at him. Her voice was soft but steady. "Thank you, human." Daniel almost flinched. No alien had ever said those words to him. Gratitude, respect, not hatred, not anger, just thanks. He didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. His hand hovered near his rifle again, but not to raise it, only to hold on to something solid, something that reminded him of who he was supposed to be. A soldier, a man of orders. But inside, the wall he had built was cracking. He studied the children closer now. Their faces were thin, almost fragile, but there was beauty in their strange, glowing eyes. Their skin, faintly lit with silver lines, looked alien and yet strangely gentle. He wondered how many like them had already died in this war, how many had been called enemy without ever lifting a weapon. The older one must have seen his hesitation because she straightened her back and spoke again, firmer this time. "I am Lyra. This is my sister, Naya." Names. They had names. Daniel realized with a sharp pang that in all his years of fighting, he had never heard an alien child's name. They were always just targets. Numbers. The enemy. But now, here were two names he would never forget. Lyra, Naya. He nodded slowly. His voice came out rough, but he forced the words. Daniel. Lyra tilted her head, repeating it carefully like tasting a strange word. Danielle. For a moment, there was silence, but it was not the cold silence of war. It was something else, fragile, uncertain, but alive. Then Daniel's instincts kicked back in. His eyes darted around the ruins, ears straining for sounds. The squad could return any time. If they saw this, there would be no mercy. Not for him, not for the children. He crouched lower, speaking quickly now. "You must hide. Stay quiet. Do not move." Lyra's eyes widened, fear flashing again. "Will you tell them?" Daniel froze. The question stabbed him. He looked at her thin arms wrapped around her sister. He thought of his commanders' faces, cold and stern. No mercy, no weakness. Slowly, he shook his head. No. Relief washed over her face, though her eyes still held doubt. She clutched Naya tighter, as if still afraid he might change his mind. Daniel pulled another ration from his pack, smaller this time, and placed it in front of her. "For later," he muttered. Lyra stared at it like it was gold. Her lips trembled, but she did not touch it yet. She simply whispered, "Why? Why help us?" Daniel opened his mouth, closed it. He had no answer that made sense. Not to her. Not even to himself. Finally, he spoke the only truth he could. "Because your children." The words felt heavy, but also right. Lyra blinked, her glowing eyes shimmering in the dim light. For the first time, she smiled. It was small, weak, but real. And in that broken city, surrounded by the ashes of war, Daniel felt something stir inside him that he thought had died long ago. Hope. The bread lay between them on the broken stone. For Daniel, it was just a small piece of dry rations. For the children, it was treasure. Lyra's hands shook as she reached forward. She did not grab it quickly, as a thief would. Instead, she moved slowly, carefully, as if afraid the soldier might change his mind. Her fingers, touched the bread, and for a moment she froze. She looked at Daniel again, her bright alien eyes full of questions. When he gave the smallest nod, she clutched it to her chest. Naya, the younger one, stirred weakly in her sister's arms. Her lips were cracked, her skin dull, her breathing shallow. Lyra broke the bread gently, giving the larger piece to her sister. She held it near her lips, whispering, "Eat, Naya. Please." The child opened her mouth, taking a tiny bite. Crumbs fell, but her eyes flickered open just a little. For the first time, Daniel saw life returning to her face. Lyra smiled with relief and took a smaller piece for herself. She chewed slowly, like someone tasting food for the first time in years. Her throat worked hard to swallow. Then she pressed her forehead against her sister's, as if sharing strength. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He had seen many things in this war. Cities burning, men screaming, alien war machines crushing everything in their path. But nothing had shaken him like this. Two children holding on to each other, fighting not with weapons, but with love and hunger. He remembered nights back home when his mother gave him and his brother food. Sometimes when rations were short, she gave them her share and went hungry. He hadn't thought about her in years. The war had buried those memories deep. But now, watching Lyra feed her sister, the memory came alive like a wound reopening. The soldier looked away, gripping his rifle tighter. His training screamed in his head, "This is wrong, this is betrayal, you cannot feed the enemy. If they live, more humans will die." But another voice, softer, whispered, "They are not soldiers, they are only children." He turned back. Lyra was staring at him again, breadcrumbs still on her lips. Her voice was faint, but her words were clear. "You are different," she said. Daniel frowned. "Different?" "Yes," she whispered. "The others? They only destroy. You gave life." Her words struck deep. He wanted to deny them, to tell her she was wrong. But inside, he knew she was right. Daniel lowered himself to sit on a piece of stone. His rifle rested across his lap, still, within reach but no longer pointed at them. He was a soldier surrounded by enemies. Yet at this moment he felt less like a warrior and more like a man staring at truth for the first time. Why didn't you run?" he asked after a long silence. Lyra looked down at Naya, stroking her hair. "Nowhere to run. Everyone gone. Only us." Her eyes shimmered, but no tears fell. She had cried enough already, he realized. Daniel felt the weight of her words. Everyone gone. How many times had humans said the same after alien attacks? How many times had he seen survivors clutching the ruins of their families? For the first time, he saw the war not as humans versus aliens, but as something crueler. Life against death, and these two little ones were fighting harder than any army he had ever seen. Nia let out a soft sound, almost a sigh, before falling asleep in her sister's arms. Her small chest rose and fell gently, steadier now. Lyra smiled, faintly, then whispered something that chilled Daniel more than any enemy weapon. "Please don't leave us." The battlefield was silent again, but the silence felt different now. Not the silence of death, but the fragile silence of hope. And Daniel, the hardened soldier, realized he had already crossed a line he could never return from. The ruins were quiet again, but Daniel knew silence never lasted long on the battlefield. Somewhere beyond the broken buildings, the rest of his squad was moving, searching, burning, clearing. Orders were simple. Leave nothing alive. He looked at the two children huddled in the shadow of the wall. Lyra cradled her sister Naya, whose breathing had grown steadier after the food. Their alien faces glowed faintly in the dim light. Too bright, too strange. If any human soldier saw them, they would not hesitate. Two triggers pulled, two lives ended. Daniel's stomach knotted. He stood, rifle in hand, scanning the street. The smoke shifted in the breeze. Every sound scraped against his nerves. The creak of twisted metal, the crumble of loose stones, the faint hiss of burning fuel. And then, voices, human voices. Daniel's blood froze. His squad was close. He turned back sharply to the children. Lyra's eyes widened at the sound, too. She looked at him, terror flashing in her glowing gaze. She whispered quickly, "They will kill us." Daniel's pulse pounded. He had no time to think. He crouched, pointing to a gap in the rubble nearby, a broken bunker half buried under stone. "Go," he hissed. "Hide there. Now." Lyra did not move. She clutched her sister tighter. "Will you tell them?" Daniel swallowed hard. His voice came out rough but steady. "No, but you must be silent. Do not make a sound." Her eyes searched his face, desperate for truth. For one painful second, Daniel feared she would not trust him. Then finally she nodded. He helped her crawl into the bunker, covering the entrance with a slab of broken metal. Their glowing skin vanished into darkness, leaving only shadows, and just in time. The voices grew louder. Footsteps crunched closer on broken glass. Daniel straightened, rifle tight in his grip. His squad appeared at the edge of the street, 3 soldiers, their faces hard and tired. "Sergeant," one called. "Anything here?" Daniel forced his voice steady. "Just ruins, nothing alive." The men spread out, kicking debris, checking corners. One of them laughed harshly. "Aliens run fast, but they always leave bodies. Easier to burn them that way." He jabbed his rifle into a pile of rubble, stirring dust. Daniel's jaw tightened. He kept his own weapon ready, but his eyes flicked, constantly toward the bunker. If even a whimper escaped, if Naya coughed, if Lyra breathed too loud. One soldier came close. Too close. His boots scraped just a few feet from where the children hid. He bent, pushing aside rocks with the barrel of his gun. Daniel's breath caught. His finger twitched near the trigger. If the soldier uncovered the entrance, if he even saw a glimpse of pale, glowing skin, what then? Would Daniel shoot his own comrade to protect the children? His heart hammered louder than the footsteps. But then, the soldier straightened, spitting into the dirt. Nothing here, just ashes. He moved on, boots crunching away. Daniel's body sagged with relief, though. He forced his face to stay calm. Another soldier glanced at him. "You're jumpy, Sergeant. Relax. War's almost over. Soon nothing will crawl in these ruins." Daniel forced a nod. "Yeah, nothing." The men regrouped and moved on, their voices fading into the smoke. Silence returned. Real silence. Daniel exhaled shakily and turned back to the bunker. He slid the slab of metal aside. 2 glowing eyes stared out at him, wide and trembling. Lyra held her sister close, both of them still alive. She whispered only one word. "Why?" Daniel could not answer. His throat closed, his mind empty. All he knew was this. He had just lied to his squad. He had chosen the children over his orders, and for the first time he realized the war inside him was more dangerous than the one outside. The night fell heavy over the ruined city. The sky was dark, the stars hidden behind smoke and clouds. Fires still glowed in the distance, but here in the broken street, only silence remained. Daniel sat with his back against a wall, his rifle resting across his knees. His squad had moved farther away, leaving him behind to secure the rear. They didn't care much about him, not anymore. He was just another tired soldier in a war that seemed endless. But now, Daniel was not alone. Across from him, inside the shadow of the broken bunker, 2 small figures huddled together. Lyra cradled her sister Naya, rocking her gently, whispering words Daniel could not understand. The alien tongue was strange, soft, flowing like water. But even without knowing the language, he understood the meaning. Comfort, protection, love. Hours passed in silence. Daniel thought about leaving, about rejoining his unit before they noticed his absence. But each time he looked at the children, he stayed. Something in him refused to walk away. Finally, Lyra spoke. Her voice was quiet, but clear enough in the still air. "She is better," she said, nodding to Naya, who now slept with steady breaths. Because of you. Daniel shook his head. Because of the food. Lyra tilted her head, studying him. The food, and you. Her words cut deeper than he expected. He had given rations before, to refugees, to wounded comrades, but this felt different. With these children, every crumb carried meaning. It was not just food, it was life. Daniel looked at her more closely. She was young, far too young to carry the weight she bore. Her hands were thin, her face hollow, but her eyes were fierce. They reminded him of the way human mothers looked at their children during evacuations. A kind of strength, born not from weapons but from responsibility. You take care of her, Daniel said quietly. Yes, Lyra whispered. I promised. Promised? She nodded, stroking her sister's hair. When the soldiers came, when fire fell, my mother said, protect her. Always protect her. Lyra's voice broke, but she did not cry. I promised, so I will. Daniel's chest ached. He thought of his own family, of promises, made and broken long ago. He had promised his younger brother he would bring him home, but his brother lay under foreign soil now, gone before the war had even reached its peak. You are strong, Daniel said, his voice low. Lyra gave a small, tired smile. Strong, because I must be. The silence stretched again, but this time it was not heavy. It was fragile, like glass. Daniel realized something. He was no longer watching aliens. He was watching children who loved, feared, and suffered just as humans did. The war had painted them as monsters, but up close they were not monsters at all. They were just people. Nia stirred in her sleep, letting out a small sigh. Lyra pulled her closer, humming softly. The sound was almost like a lullaby, soft and steady. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, listening. The war outside felt far away, but the peace could not last. He knew his squad would return. He knew questions would rise. He knew feeding the enemy was dangerous, but hiding them was worse. If they were discovered, the children would die, and maybe he would die with them. Still, he could not turn away. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. I will help you, but you must stay hidden, always quiet. Understand? Lyra's eyes lit with a mix of fear and hope. She nodded slowly. Daniel looked at her at Nia and felt the bond tightening around his heart. It was not duty that kept him here now. It was not orders. It was something deeper, something he thought the war had stolen from him long ago. Humanity, and, in that broken city, under the shadow of death, a silent bond was born, one stronger than fear, stronger than war. The next morning came with fire. Daniel woke to the crackle of flames in the distance and the heavy rumble of engines. Smoke rolled across the ruined streets carried by the cold wind. The war was moving again. The human army was preparing to finish what they had started. From his radio came the order, sharp and merciless. Burn the city. Leave nothing alive. Daniel's stomach twisted as the words echoed in his ears. He glanced toward the bunker, where Lyra and Nia still hid. They slept curled together, their fragile bodies trembling in the cold. They looked so small, so defenseless. Leave nothing alive. The order repeated in his mind, each word heavier than stone. He had followed such commands many times before. He had burned villages, destroyed alien shelters, left corpses in his path. It was war. He told himself it was survival. But now the faces of the children broke through that wall of excuses. He could see Lyra's fierce eyes, her promise to protect her sister. He could hear Nia's weak sigh as she slept. And above all, he could still hear her whisper, "Please, human, just one bite for my sister." The soldier inside him screamed for obedience. But the man inside him felt something else. Guilt, compassion, humanity. Footsteps approached. His Squad was coming back, torches in hand, ready to set the ruins ablaze. Daniel's heart pounded. If they searched here, they would find the children. And once they found them, there would be no hesitation, no mercy. He crouched near the bunker, whispering quickly, "Lyra, wake up." The older child stirred, her eyes blinking open. She looked up at him with confusion, then saw the fear on his face. Her arms tightened around Naya. "What is it?" she whispered. "They're coming," Daniel said. "If they see you, you will die." Her breath caught. She did not cry, but her glowing eyes filled with terror. "Then what will you do?" The question stabbed into him like a blade. What would he do? He had no plan, no safe place, no excuse ready. He only knew one truth. If he did nothing, the children would burn. The sound of boots grew louder. Voices shouted closer. The flames were spreading through the ruins, black smoke crawling into the sky. Daniel's palms were sweaty against the rifle. He had killed aliens before. He had killed humans too, when orders demanded it. But this choice was different. It was not about enemies or allies. It was about innocence. His chest tightened. He could not breathe. He thought of his brother again, of the promise he had broken. He thought of his mother, giving her food away so her children could live. He thought of Lyra's words, "You are different, different." Could he truly be different here and now? A shout cut through the street. "Sergeant, we're torching this block next. Get clear." Daniel's mouth went dry. He had seconds left. He looked at Lyra. She stared back, holding Naya close, waiting for his answer. Her lips trembled, but her voice was steady. "Please, human." Daniel shut his eyes for one heartbeat. Then he opened them, and the decision was carved into him like steel. "No matter what happens," he whispered, "I will not let them take you." Lyra's eyes widened. Hope and disbelief fought across her face. She clutched his arm as if to be sure he was real. Daniel turned, lifting his rifle. The footsteps were almost here. His squad was only seconds away. The final choice had been made. He was no longer just a soldier following orders. He was a man ready to defy them, for two alien children who had stolen his heart. And with that choice, Daniel knew. The war was no longer just out there. The war was now inside him. The flames spread quickly. Black smoke rose above the ruins, carried by the morning wind. The human squad marched down the broken street, torches in one hand, rifles in the other. Their orders were clear: burn everything, leave nothing alive. Daniel stood at the edge of the bunker, his rifle tight in his hands. Behind him, Lyra clutched Naya close, her glowing eyes wide with fear. The younger sister whimpered softly, her weak body trembling against the cold. The voices grew louder. Boots stomped on stone. Any second now, the squad would reach the bunker. Daniel's chest ached with the weight of his choice. He had lived his whole life by orders, but orders could not guide him here. His commanders would call this betrayal. His fellow soldiers would call it treason, but his heart called it something else: humanity. He turned back quickly to Lyra. "When I tell you, run," he whispered. Her eyes widened. "Run? Where?" "Doesn't matter," Daniel said. "Just away from here, as far as you can. I'll hold them off." She shook her head fiercely, her arms tightening around Naya. "No, you'll die." Daniel gave a small, tired smile. "Maybe. But if I don't, you both will. And that, I can't allow." Before she could answer, the squad appeared. 3 soldiers, their faces grim, torches burning bright. "Sergeant," one called. "This area's next. Clear it." Daniel's heart pounded. He stepped forward, blocking the entrance with his body. "Already checked," he said quickly. "Nothing here." The soldier frowned. "Orders are to burn everything." "Move aside." Daniel's grip tightened on his rifle. His pulse roared in his ears. "I said it's clear." For a tense moment, silence hung heavy between them. The other soldier narrowed his eyes, suspicious. His gaze shifted toward the bunker. "Why guard rubble, Sergeant? What's in there?" Daniel's breath caught. He knew the moment had come. No more lies. No more stalling. He raised his rifle. The squad froze. "What the hell are you doing?" "Daniel," one shouted. Daniel's voice was low but steady. "There are children in there. They are not your enemies, not today." The soldiers stared at him like he had gone mad. One raised his own rifle. "Have you lost your mind? They're aliens. Monsters." Daniel shook his head. "Look at me. Do I look like I'm protecting monsters? They're just kids. You burn. Them you burn everything we stand for." The men hesitated. Orders battled against doubt in their eyes. But doubt was not enough. One soldier cursed and aimed. Daniel fired first. The shot rang across the ruins, echoing like thunder. Chaos broke loose. Torches dropped, rifles raised, shouts filled the air. Daniel fought with a fury he hadn't felt in years. Not for victory, not for glory, only for 2 lives hidden behind him. He moved fast, ducking behind rubble, returning fire, forcing the squad back step by step. Bullets sparked against stone. Smoke stung his eyes. His heart pounded. With every breath. Behind him, Lyra whispered urgently to Naya, "Now, we must go." When Daniel saw them slip into the shadows, carrying each other away, a weight lifted from his chest. They were running. They were alive. That was enough. But the cost was high. A bullet tore into his side, dropping him to one knee. He gritted, his teeth firing again, keeping the soldiers' attention fixed on him. Every shot bought the sisters more distance. Blood soaked his uniform. His vision blurred, but even as pain roared through him, a strange calm filled his heart. For once he was not killing for orders. He was fighting for something greater. When the last shot left his rifle, Daniel collapsed against the rubble, breath ragged. The soldiers shouted, regrouping, but he no longer heard them clearly. Somewhere beyond the ruins, he imagined Lyra and Naya running, escaping into the smoke, into freedom. He pictured their small figures disappearing into the horizon, alive because he had chosen differently. Daniel smiled faintly through the blood. His eyes closed slowly. In his final moment, one thought echoed in his mind. Sometimes humanity is not about winning wars. It is about saving one life, or 2. And with that, Sergeant Daniel's story ended. But for the alien child and her sister, the story had only just begun.